Warning: this video may potentially trigger seizures for people with photosensitive epilepsy. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the haunted tales from the old rocking chair. And now your host, Christina Spencer.
The Man in the Truck, written by Lily Draws. Okay, so this happened a few days ago when I was on a road trip with my cousin. I'll be referring to him as James again, like I have in the past stories. For a quick reference, I'm 13 and female. James is 21. James and I were on a road trip to my grandmother's from my aunt's house. I have a great relationship with my cousin, so my parents let me go on trips with him occasionally. It's about a 10-hour drive, and we were about 3 hours into the drive. It was about 9 p.m. at the time. I was pretty sleep-deprived, and everything was hilarious at the moment, so when I saw this red semi-truck outside my window, I just laughed it off. The man in the truck was heavyset, and that's an understatement, and had a long, untamed beard. He had a creepy vibe, but I waved at him anyway. He, in turn, did a little groping motion to me. Finding it more hilarious than creepy, I started laughing harder and told James the story, doing the whole groping motion and all. He looked creeped out and disgusted, but there wasn't really anything either of us could do. A while later, about 4.5 hours into our drive, James pulled into a rest stop. I walked to the bathroom. When I came out, the man was just standing there. He looked to be at least 6 feet. I looked out the glass door leading into the building and saw James glaring daggers at the door. I was confused and walked back to the car. When he told me, it really creeped me out, so much so that I started crying. Then again, I had been awake for around 20 hours. The man had stared and followed me inside the building, mumbling shit about me. James said he was basically talking normally. He attempted to comfort me, but quickly said he had to go to the bathroom and went inside. A few seconds later, when I was in the car, the guy was at my window. He stared at me, wide, creepy grin and all. He started saying I could go with him and he was going to treat me real good. He offered me candy and tried to coax me into his truck. I was busy bawling my eyes out. Then, right on cue, James walks out and yells at the guy and threatens him. The guy backed off and got into his truck. He still just stared at me, the grin still on his face. We flirted out of there. We wanted to get as far away from the guy as we could. It was around 12 a.m. when we pulled into a motel to sleep. The rest of the night till 8 a.m. was fine. Nothing really happened. Sadly, that didn't last long. Then we were at a restaurant, eating breakfast. The same fat shit sat across from us. He grinned at me and James just looked pissed off. The guy walked by our table when going to the bathroom and brushed his hand on my shoulder, doing the same on the way back. A quick note, James is a real chill dude and will let most anything slide, but because he had known me since I was just a baby, he was very protective of me. He's not like that even to my siblings. He and I are very close. He was obviously pissed before, but at that point he stood up from his seat and walked over to the guy's table. He started yelling shit about how he better stop following us and to back off. He made no threats, but did curse a lot. I felt pretty nervous and just wanted to go. The guy stood up and smacked James and yelled how I was leading him on. The guy was about 6 foot and James is about 6'8". The argument continued until the cops came and separated them. They got the story and came to the conclusion because he was assaulted, we could press charges. James said no, and we just continued the day. The rest of the trip was pretty bland. The guy wasn't seen for the rest of it. However, James did follow me like a bodyguard whenever we went anywhere. Even though he was protecting me, I was terrified. He looked scary as shit, but he's a cinnamon roll. Also on the trip, I tried to ask what happened when I was 7. It was another story I posted before, but he just played dumb. Bitch boy wouldn't tell me shit. Anyway, hope you enjoy reading this. Anyone who wants to narrate it can. Just send me a link when you do. Experienced a car crash yesterday morning that didn't actually happen. Written by alexsangthat. So I don't really know how to explain this, or if it even fits into the sub, or even what actually happened if I'm being honest, but regardless, I will try to relay the story. I was driving to work yesterday morning and I'm coming up a side street that connects to a very busy road in my area. It's the main road that stretches through like 20 towns. I get to the red light at the main road and sit there for about 15 seconds before seeing a car pull up behind me. As the car comes to a complete stop behind me, my eyes drift from the rear view mirror to the stoplight in front of me. It was still red. I then looked down to my radio clock and it said 7:36. And this is going to sound strange, but for a period of time that seemed to stretch until infinity. I kind of felt like this intense pressure all around me. Like I was zoned out and couldn't clear my head or move my body because I was obsessed with the numbers I was seeing. Like I was in a trance or something, and it was silent around me, but it was at the same time like very, very loud pressing silence. I couldn't move, but I also wasn't trying to move, almost like I was paralyzed with fear and knew I was frozen, but I couldn't really process it or try to move. I don't know, I can't really explain it. Even now, it's so confusing to me. After who knows how long of being stuck in the trance, suddenly everything snaps back to normal, instantly. The very first thing I register is that the person behind me is laying on their horn. I look up and see the light is green. I begin to drive forward, feeling completely 100% normal again. And once I get into the middle of the intersection, I sense this large presence to the right, left of me. I turn my head to look out my driver's side window just in time to see a huge truck coming right at me. It hits me and I could feel my body break. I felt and heard so many bones get absolutely crushed. Suddenly I'm upside down in my car, in so much pain I can hardly breathe, covered in glass, and I can hear someone screaming. The last thing I remember before passing out about 10 seconds later was seeing cop lights and distinctly thinking to myself, wow, how did he get here so fast? This is important later. The next thing I remember, I open my eyes and I'm sitting in my car at the red light. The intense pain I felt a moment ago is fading fast, but it's still there. Only almost like a ghost version of itself, if that makes sense. I'm intensely confused at this point, and I start looking around in a panicky way, and my eyes trail across the clock again. It says 7:36, and I'm beyond confused. I know it wasn't a daydream. It was so goddamn real. I'm frozen in place, staring at the clock, trying to figure out what the frick just happened. After about 5 or 10 seconds, I hear the person behind me start to beep at me, but I'm shaking and about to cry and so overwhelmed with leftover fear that I can't even react to it. They start to lay on their horn, and I still can't move because I'm just so confused and frightened. Now at this point, I was starting to calm myself down and trying to rationalize what happened. I was beginning to convince myself that it had been just a daydream. It was early enough and I was tired enough that I even started to think I just nodded off at the red light and dreamed the crash. What the hell else could it have been, right? If it weren't for what happened next, I probably would have been able to go the rest of my life believing I had fallen asleep and dreamed it. The moment the clock turned 7:37, like the very second the number changed, a huge truck come barreling through the light, definitely speeding. They ran the red light and crossed in front of my car. A few seconds later, a cop, who must have been just behind the truck in the first place, runs the red light as well, turning his lights on in the process and beginning to pursue the speeding truck. They both drove out of my view within a few seconds. I was so shaken, I just pulled my car to the side of the road, right where I was, and sat there in silence for I don't even know how long. Like, what normal explanation could I possibly come up for this? There isn't one. I hadn't seen the truck or the cop car before they ran the light in front of me, so how did I dream the crash? I had included these very specific and very real details. The entire area I live in is covered in trees, so it's not like I can see very far down the road in either direction. I know for a fact I did not see that truck or the cop car before I experienced the crash. I'm still so shaken. How do I rationalize this experience to myself? I feel disillusioned by something that I don't even know what. I feel like I'm going crazy. I needed to share this with people who won't automatically dismiss this as a hallucination or a dream. Someone is there. Written by Easybug. When I was young, I remember one night that more than likely will be the scariest night of my life. I was 15 years old, and it was just a few days into summer vacation. I was going to bed a little early because I have to get up a little early the next day. As I was in bed, my dog came into my room. Not that weird. He would usually do that. Note, this is a few days before the scary night that this all led up to. Before my dog could come in and let me pet him, he looked at the front door. My dog is a rescue and is insane. So when we would get a package, he would freak out. He was just looking at the door. Then the doorbell rang, and he flipped. He ran downstairs and started jumping at the door and barking. My dad ran out there with me, following with a bat. There was no one that we could see around the house. But just when we were about to go back inside, I saw something standing at the end of the road. All black. Yes, I know that's a cliche, but it's true. When the figure realized that I saw him, he waved and walked towards the exit. In all honesty, I brushed it off as someone going to work because we had a lot of nurses in the neighborhood, and also the neighborhood is a relatively nice suburban place to live. So another few days passed by, and we all brushed it off, like some kids or something being dicks. About 5 days later, my mom called me while I was at the skate park with my friends and said that they were going out and won't be home until the next morning. I said I'd be home in 30 minutes. When I got home, I asked them what was up, and they just told me that they haven't been on a date for like 6 months. So I said that I'd stay here and wouldn't do anything for the night. And I didn't. For the most part, it was silent, just my dog and me watching TV, until my dog perked his ears. I asked him what it was, and he did something I'd never seen him do. When I finally heard the noise upstairs, I was about to go see what it was, but my dog got in front of me and growled. At this point, I knew that that was not a noise made by a 17-year-old house. I heard someone coming down the stairs. I grabbed a hammer and stated that I was calling the cops. I didn't have my phone with me. I was too busy trying to get a weapon. I forgot to grab the one thing that could have truly saved my life. The guy looked around the corner, and I could see he was wearing a mask. When I told him I called the cops, he stopped at the corner. He had a gun. I yelled, "I have a 12 gauge, and I'm not afraid to paint the walls a new color with your freaking brains." But in reality, we didn't even own a gun. My dog started barking, and I said I was going to let go of my dog. He bolted out the back. I let go of my dog, and we went out the back. I saw him jump the fence. That was the end. Nothing more. Not even another doorbell ring. I didn't tell my parents about it. They wouldn't have believed me anyway. I think maybe the man had thought everyone was gone, but whatever he wanted, I think he was ready to kill no matter what. I'm 20 now, and I still think that was the scariest night of my life. While my story isn't about a ghost or going into a mysterious place in the woods, it's by no means the scariest thing to other people. But this did scare the living shit out of me. I hope you all enjoyed all of our haunted tales this evening. If you would like to discuss any of the stories on tonight's podcast, or just chat live with me, join our Discord server. I'm always live on there during and after the podcast every Sunday night starting at 7 p.m. Join our community on our Facebook group page and YouTube channel. If you have a haunting story of your own or artwork and you want to submit it for consideration for the future show, drop me a line on our Reddit page or email address. All our links are below in the description. Special thanks to Darken Mood, Darken_M00D, for all his wonderful art that you can check out on his Reddit page. I want to thank all our brave storytellers, for without them there would be no show. A detailed list of story credits are in the description. But most importantly, I want to thank you, the listener, for taking time out of your day to listen to Haunted Tales from the Old Rocking Chair. I hope you have a wonderful night, and as always, sweet dreams.